Emily Wants to Play 2 continues on the story of the first game, revealing more information on who the evil entity controlling Emily and the other possessed dolls was. Hi folks, I'm R and welcome to the video. Send me your short movie and game suggestions on Twitter, which I will use for the upcoming videos. This video will contain spoilers. With that said, let's begin. I highly recommend you watch the previous video I made on the first game, which will contain a lot of information which I won't cover in this video. You can click on the card above to get redirected to the first video. After a long party in his apartment, the time being 6 AM in the morning, the protagonist decides to sleep and get some rest to get ready going to his job at Timmy Tom's Fast Sandwiches at 4 PM. The protagonist seemingly wakes up at 3 PM, being hunted and harassed by Mr. Tatters, Chester, Kiki, and an old man on a rocking chair. On a whiteboard, a writing instructs the protagonist to let her in, seemingly referring to Emily. Despite the horrifying, surreal nature of his experience, the protagonist carries on as normal, trying to find his car keys to get to work. After finding his car key, he decides to take a shower and wash the dishes, as if the terrifying dolls are his roommates whom he gets on with very well. As he gets to his door, he gets jump scared by an entity whom we will know of to be called Weasel, and then passes out, yet again waking up at 3 PM, displaying that his experience was nothing but a recurring nightmare that he's been having for a while, explaining the strange nature of his behavior in the dream. It seems as if he's been targeted by the entity who possessed Emily and the other dolls, wanting him to do something specific. As he proceeds, it's yet again revealed he's having another nightmare, a nightmare within a nightmare, blurring the line of when he's actually awake and when he's sleeping, especially as the dreams are very realistic. Once more, he awakens at 3 PM, getting ready to go to work. Arriving on time at work, he gets assigned to deliver a sandwich to Central Evidence, a research facility where the dolls were taken to for further investigation following the events of the first game.
Anyone here? I have a sandwich order. Hello?
As he arrives, he notices an inanimate doll, being Chester from their last game, performing some sort of paranormal ritual. As he is locked in the research facility, he decides to explore further, coming across a research report on a creepy, seemingly haunted doll called Greta. Greta was obtained from a house fire located at 781 Hell Park Drive, being originally a baby doll, which eyes were removed before the fire. All of the residents of the property died in the house fire and were presumed to have been sleeping, not realizing that they're trapped in a burning house. The doll was taken to this facility in hopes of investigating to learn the cause of the fire. The investigators were perplexed, finding the doll with superficial burns only, as everything else in the house, including the house itself, were all obliterated. Another incident report reads about a missing 8-year-old child called Brax Milton, who suddenly disappeared after playing with his toys in his room. He is considered to be whether kidnapped or a runaway, but not much information to why they have such a radical opinion that an 8-year-old child might have ran away. When the parents try to check on him, they notice a Jack-in-the-Box toy left on his bed with a doll called Weasel stuffed inside it. Yet again, the box alongside Weasel were taken to this facility for further investigation. The research report about the box reads that they found Brax's fingerprints on the outside and also the inside of the box in a very bizarre manner, as if he was holding onto the rim from inside of the box. This indicates that Brax might have been taken or replaced by Weasel, or maybe even possessing the Weasel toy, with the last doll, Greta, having the soul of the child of the house that burnt down. The next report is on Maxwell Steele, a robber who wore a hollowed-out mannequin suit, who ultimately was shot dead by the police. who thought that he might have been armed. He used the mannequin suit to blend in with the other mannequins at shopping malls and easily steal money and goods. The report suggests that the suit is smelly, seemingly indicating there might be a rotting corpse inside it or at least remnants of it. The suit was taken in for further investigation as well. Alongside these reports, the protagonist also finds images obtained from the house in the previous game on 905 Sister Street, where the pizza delivery man was hunted by Emily and her 3 dolls. These images tell the tragic death of Emily as she was locked in the basement after showing violent tendencies and posing danger to anyone around her, just for herself to be confused why she's being treated that way, indicating that she must have been under the influence of an evil entity, controlling her body alongside the dolls, not being aware of her own actions. As time progresses from when the protagonist arrives at 7 p.m., he observes in shock the Greta doll moving on its own and patrolling around. Soon, the protagonist comes across Kiki doll, performing a similar ritual to Chester, bringing Maxwell to life, alongside Weasel and Greta, giving the entity controlling them all the power to possess them as well. Soon, all of the 6 dolls, including Emily, become active and hostile, with the protagonist trying to find a set of keycards in order to escape through the highly secured doors, accessing different areas. On a whiteboard, the protagonist notices a new writing, informing him to play with certain entities at midnight, seemingly being Emily and the other dolls. As time passes each hour, more writings on the whiteboard appear, instructing the protagonist of the game he must play in order to survive, as if he refuses to play or loses, he would ultimately face his doom. Meanwhile, the protagonist manages to get to a secret basement containing confidential documents. A newspaper dated April 17th of 1917 reports on a mysterious fire burning down a circus, suspected to be due to arson. The article mentions that a clown doll was found with traces of gasoline near the tents, suggestive of Mr. Tatters being the culprit. Another article in the same newspaper reports that a ventriloquist called Chester O'Leary died due to unknown causes, being dismissed as a heart attack or stroke. His doll was then later sold in an auction, which explains the origins of the Chester doll. The ventriloquist, just like Emily and her parents, died in a similar fashion, with no signs of injuries, seemingly the entity causing his death and then subsequently possessing his doll, or whether transferring his soul into the doll whom he has control over.
I went down in the basement today to bring Emily some food. She was laying on the floor lifeless. She wasn't breathing. She didn't have a pulse. She didn't have any injuries. We can't go to the police. How can we explain this?
Been over a month now, and the police still haven't found any leads on the bizarre death of a local couple. The couple was found lifeless in their living room as neighbors were jogging by. The front door was wide open and the bodies could be easily seen from the street.
Another newspaper published on May 1st, 1917, the following month, reports on a puppet master called Walt Lodier being in town to entertain children. Other articles in the same newspaper report that 12 people have been going missing in the span of the last few weeks, with one being found dead, yet again having no injuries, similar to Chester O'Leary, Emily, and her parents. Another column also reports that children have been claiming that toys come to life, which all connect back to the puppet master Walt Lodier. The entity that has been controlling the dolls and possessing Emily. An image of his performance clearly shows both Mr. Tatters and Kiki present, displaying how he has been controlling them ever since. The Chester doll was also obtained by the puppet master, who seems to have evil paranormal abilities, killing its ventriloquist in a strange fashion with no injuries. A following newspaper published in June 7th, 1917, reports on a cholera outbreak which was linked to Kiki, which people thought to have caused the outbreak. This displays the evil entity who has been controlling the dolls, killing people in mysterious ways and possessing souls is no other than Walt Lodier, the puppet master who wants more souls to join him, taking more and more. It's unclear if he's still alive, being a supernatural entity, or now dead, still having the ability to hunt people and control other dolls. But it's more likely that he actually possesses people's souls and controls them, transferring them into dolls, hence why he keeps on saying join us and that we are one. He, alongside the other souls under his control, act as a hive mind, taking his orders, causing more havoc and killing people. In the main ending, as time reaches 7 AM with the protagonist being able to leave, he notices that the place has caught on fire, with the whiteboard mentioning in a sarcastic way that they are sorry about the fire, them being the dolls and the entity controlling them. As the protagonist looks for fire extinguishers, he notices that they all have been taken away, with all the water containers drained as well. The protagonist frantically runs around and luckily manages to find an open exit, with the passage clear from fire, letting him narrowly escape. A news report then reads on the outcome, with the sandwich delivery guy reporting his experience to the police. He explains that he was attacked by the dolls, which the police doesn't believe, and put him under psychiatrist evaluation, and subsequently hold him as a prime suspect for the facility fire, believing it must have been due to arson. Furthermore, the security guard of the facility is missing, whom the protagonist explains to have been killed by the dolls, with the police yet again not believing him.
Now they think he's crazy too. I told him I wasn't crazy. I'm going back to that house. I'm gonna figure this out for myself.
Suddenly, there's a man who says that he will figure this thing out himself while he's reading the report, seemingly being the pizza delivery man from the first game who went through the same experience, being hunted by Emily and the 3 original dolls. Finally, there's a scene with Emily looking at a tall figure surrounded by the dolls, who tells her that she can play forever, but that he cannot let her out anymore and that they are one. The tall figure seems to be the puppet master Vault Lodier, who seemingly wants to transfer Emily's soul into a doll, hence why he mentions that she cannot go out anymore, as Vault seems to use dolls for his sinister plans, causing tragedies in order to stay incognito and not raise any suspicion. This ending can be achieved if the protagonist turns off the lights in his own apartment and stays in the dark for over a minute. A noise of a door opening is heard, suggesting that the protagonist was taken by the entity or the dolls. A news report reads that he was found dead in his apartment with signs of head injury. The police regard the death as a freak accident, with the protagonist dying after tripping in the dark, with his items haphazardly scattered in his apartment after the party, contributing to the accident. The second secret ending can be achieved if the protagonist manages to leave the research facility right after observing the paranormal occurrences. He subsequently gets caught by the police and detained as a suspect to the fire of the research facility and the disappearance of the security guard. He explains that he escaped the facilities after observing Chester performing a strange ritual and the slumped over security guard, which the police doesn't believe and detain him instead to close the case. It seems like the puppets burnt down the research facility as it contained a lot of information about them, posing danger to the evil puppet master entity being discovered, as he clearly wanted to keep a low profile, hence why he used the dolls to carry out his psychotic plans, and told off Emily for going out and revealing her presence. The recurring nightmares the protagonist suffered from seemingly indicated that he was targeted by the puppet master for some time, whether being wanted to join them or being expected to visit the research facility so that he can set the dolls free under the entity's control. The first game revealed the tragic backstory of Emily and how she slowly deteriorated, being slowly possessed by Vault, being thought to have behavioral issues, with this game revealing the backstory of Vault and the dolls. Maybe if a third game is released, it could potentially expand on what kind of entity the Puppet Master is and how he obtained his powers. That's it for the end of this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, you can watch more by hitting on the cards on the screen and hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell to stay tuned for more. It's been your host R, and I will see you on the next one.